Now, for the final show of the year, we thought we'd give a big shout out to the national broadcaster. Yes, your ABC and its journalists. Whether it was the lead up to the election or during the campaign or when covering the first few months of the Albanese government, ABC presenters were the paragon of journalistic objectivity. Take it away, 7:30 Chief Political Correspondent Lara Bingle. Sorry, Laura Tingle. Oh.
But do you want to take this opportunity to actually say sorry for the mistakes you've made as Prime Minister? Not just about COVID, everything from going to Hawaii during the bushfires through to not having enough rapid antigen tests in place, even as you foreshadowed the switch to a greater use of them, and for failing to live up to your pledge to hundreds of thousands of people on the NDIS. And will you apologise to people who've had, the hundreds of people who've had funding arbitrarily cut under the scheme?
Well, thanks for the question.
Always happy to ask you questions, Prime Minister.
Yep.
Oh, jeez. Now, compare this with what Laura Tingle said in June when Labor took office but went quiet on their promises of reducing the cost of living.
It is hard to remember a Treasurer who has had to deliver quite such a sombre message from his first day in the job as Jim Chalmers. It's not so much that the cupboard is bare or that there is an even bigger black hole than we thought. It is that a perfect storm of international and local factors that are largely outside any government's control have hit the economy. Underlying much of the new government's argument about inflation, and particularly the spiralling cost of energy, is that considerable blame does lie with the former government.
Excellent deflecting there, Laura Tingle. You're doing great at putting the case forward for Labor. And then we had Media Watch host Paul Barry. He was very upset during the campaign because journalists were holding then opposition leader Anthony Albanese to account. Oh, no!
What's the national unemployment rate?
National unemployment rate at the moment is, I think it's 5.4. Sorry, I'm not sure what it is.
Since the Labor leader famously failed to nail the unemployment rate on day one of the campaign, the TV hounds have been on a gotcha hunt. And almost every day now involves a memory test. But the question for us is it good journalism? And in my view, the answer is no. It's cheap and nasty, and it's done with one intent: to catch the leader out.
Oh, great point, Paul Barry. When it comes to asking questions of Anthony Albanese, no doubt this is the example you prefer. ABC political editor Andrew Probyn.
So for all those people who do know Mark McGowan more than they know you, who is Anthony Albanese?
Anthony Albanese is the son of a single mum who grew up in council housing in Camperdown.
Blowtorch to the belly stuff there. Not content with Labor's win, Paul Barry was still upset after the election, saying this.
What News Corp did succeed in doing was help magnify doubts about Labor's leader and perhaps suppress the party's primary vote.
Oh. Okay, thank you, Paul. I've got the memo. And a note to my fellow News Corp journalists: do not report anything that could magnify doubts about Labor politicians. Where have we heard this before?
In Australia, the private lives of politicians have traditionally been considered off limits. But many women working in Canberra believe this culture of silence allows sexist behaviour to thrive. Four Corners does not suggest only Liberal politicians cross this line, but the Liberal Party is in government, and the Liberal politicians in question are ministers of the Crown.
OK, so Louise Milligan, now that Labor comprise the ministers of the Crown, your salacious expose of its members will be when?
The 12th of never, I'd say, Rowan. And lastly, let's not forget the scant coverage ABC gave to the allegations of bullying inside the Labor Party.
The husband of the late Senator Kimberley Kitching has used his eulogy to reveal the immense pressure his wife was under from members of the Labor Party.
And while celebrating her achievements, the Senator's grieving husband used his eulogy to call out the poor treatment of his late wife and what she received by her Labor colleagues.
There's a lot I could say about the unpleasantness of a cantankerous cabal, not all of them in Parliament, that was aimed at Kimber.
A husband's grief, pointed and direct.
The intensity of it did baffle and hurt her. She deserves so very much better.
Nothing to see here, folks. Please just move on.
There was a sort of a certain element of beatification of Kimberley Kitching. She played tough. She was a factional warrior.
I too, was troubled by, and I think it is outrageous to make any suggestion that there is no evidence that she died of anything other than a suspected heart attack, right? And that's right.
In terms of what's at the heart of it, well, there were obviously conflicts between Kitching and Labor's Senate team. I don't think that information is particularly new or revelatory. All I would say is there's generally two sides to every story, and I think for the sake of the dignity that I referred to a moment ago, it really is best to leave it there.
Catherine, thank you.
In fact, the ABC's flagship current affairs show, The Drum, made not one mention of the allegations in the fortnight after Kimberley Kitching's death. In summary, when the coalition is in office, ABC journalists go into overdrive to hold the government to account, as they should. But now that Labor is in office, what do we get from the ABC?
And whispered in the sounds of silence.